Hello, fellow treasure hunters and detectorists. So the day is finally here. Jack and I just arrived in the Black Hills. We're at the Palmer Gulch KOA, just about 6 miles behind Mount Rushmore. We've been planning a mountain bike ride on the George Mickelson Trail for more than a year now and are finally here. Now, we left early this morning and for the most part drove straight through. We did stop in Chamberlain to see the Lewis and Clark Visitor Center there, and then no trip west would not be complete without a stop to Wall Drug to actually get some lunch and do a small amount of shopping. So it turns out my son is deathly scared of mountain lions. He surprised me while we were there. He insisted on buying 2 hunting knives so we would have weapons with us in case we were attacked while out on our ride. Very, very funny, and I'm going to milk that for all that it's worth for the rest of this week. So we actually got here early to mid-afternoon, so we've got the rest of the day and evening to do stuff before we get on with our bike ride and some treasure hunting tomorrow. So we've got all of our stuff in the cabin here. This is where we're staying. Just a simple one-room cabin. We won't be here a huge amount because of the bike riding that we'll be doing, some of the treasure hunting. When we checked in, Carly with an EY at the front desk was gracious enough to also give me permission to do metal detecting in one of the very open, wide open fields just on the other side of the campground. So looking forward to doing some of that as well this week. So the rest of this afternoon, our plan is we're going to be driving into Keystone. We went through there on our way here, but we're going back to walk around, see the sights there. And then we are going to head to Mount Rushmore to do all of the touristy stuff there and to stay for the night lighting. So when we get back here, I'll check in with you again and give you a quick update of how the day went and a preview of what's going to be happening in our treasure hunting over the next 3 days. So a slight change of plans. We had some extra time, an extra couple of hours, so Jack and I decided we were going to venture on to the site of our first treasure. So we are at Sheridan Lake now, and we've hiked back kind of along the lake through the trees here. Absolutely gorgeous. And the treasure, lost treasure of Burnt Ranch. So in the mid-1870s, we talked about this before, was the height of the gold rush. And the cavalry, the army, was hired to protect stagecoaches during that time because of all of the stagecoach robberies going on. And the cavalry was actually stationed here at Sheridan Lake. They had a camp here as they traveled between Custer and Deadwood. And there was one morning when one of the soldiers went missing. So other soldiers, 10 of them, went out looking for him. He was not to be found. And the next day, just to the east of here, so off in that direction, there was a miner who was found. And his mine was farther off to, I believe, the north or the northwest of the lake here. And it was believed that he was on his way to Rapid City to cash in $3,000 of gold dust that he had found. So that next morning, he's found dead. There's a missing soldier. They put 2 and 2 together and decided that he probably is the one who killed this soldier. So as it turns out, this missing soldier eventually rejoins his unit, where he is arrested for being AWOL, away without leave. The theory was that he killed this soldier. His commander said he was already arrested because of being AWOL. They weren't going to do anything about the murder, but they had put him to work at a sawmill nearby here. One day, one of the other workers at the sawmill was talking about this mysterious murder, and this soldier became so enraged that he grabbed the worker and threw him into a circular saw, killing him immediately. Upon seeing this, the other workers at the mill grabbed the soldier and hung him right there. Natural consequences. This is how things worked here. People took care of things themselves. The soldier never admitted to murdering the miner, but the evidence really showed that it probably was him because there were military boot tracks that were found near the body of the dead miner. $3,000 worth of gold dust today would be worth $65,000. So we're going to explore the area a bit here, see if anything might turn up. Not likely, but it is an absolutely gorgeous lake. Interesting to think of soldiers camping here at one time in order to protect regular citizens from robbery at the height of not only the gold rush, but also a time for people who are trying to make a dishonest living by taking the money and the earnings of those who are here to earn a good, hard, honest wage and life. So that is enough searching for today. It looks like the lost treasure of Burnt Ranch is safe, at least for another day. We're going to move on to Mount Rushmore. About 20 years ago, my wife and I had a chance to meet Glenn Bradford. We had been at a chuck wagon dinner, and the lady sitting next to me was a retired teacher and introduced me to Glenn and gave us a couple quick stories about working on the mountain as a young man. How amazing that must have been. So it is evening. We had way more time on our hands than we thought we would today. So we cut our time at Mount Rushmore short in favor of coming back to the campground and having a fire. We got a long day tomorrow. We've got 32 miles of biking. So the plan for tomorrow is we're going to drive up to Deadwood and then get on the George Mickelson Trail and ride a little bit more than 16 miles south from there and then turn around and go back. While we are sharing the story of the Sydney duck cache. I'll share that story tomorrow, but it is a very interesting story and a very similar end to today's. This part of the country was the Wild West. When the gold rush happened, there were people that were here trying to earn an honest day's work and wages, and there were other people that were here for very dishonest reasons. And their fate was determined most of the time by the people closest to them. So the other two legends that we've got to tell as well, one of them has a very, very similar story, a very similar ending as well. That will be on Wednesday, Lame Johnny's Lost Treasure. And then either Wednesday afternoon or Thursday, we're going to try to find the entrance to Cibila, the lost city of gold from the wildly popular movie National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets. So for now, we're going to get on to our campfire and enjoy the evening and then hit the sack. And we'll be getting up early tomorrow to head out on the bikes and share the Sydney duck cache legend with you of the lost and buried gold near Pluma South Dakota, just south of Deadwood. See you in the morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Parry. Welcome to the KOA at Palmer Gulch. This is just behind Mount Rushmore, about 6 miles. So we're heading off to Deadwood today to do some treasure hunting along the George Mickelson Trail. I did get up a bit early today and did a little metal detecting just around the camp here, and trash to treasure ratio was pretty good. I did find 10 coins in the normal trash that I would expect to find here, bottle caps and pull tabs. So we are all set to go. We're going to make the drive up to Deadwood and ride 16 and a half miles south, turn around and go back up. And we are going to be sharing the story of the Sydney duck cache with you while we're there. So I'll give you more information about that once we get going. The treasure is rumored to be buried in a box canyon near Pluma, and a very specific description of that. So we will be stopping and seeing if we can at least locate the area that this treasure possibly was buried. We are all set here. Jack has got his knives out and ready to go. Let me show you what those look like. So Jack let his imagination get the best of him over the last several days. So he did purchase a couple of knives just in case we run into any big cats while on the trail today. So we've got about an hour drive, so we're going to get going here. We'll catch up with you once we get out and ready to start our ride. So Jack and I are riding up the canyon outside of Pluma looking for a box canyon with a waterfall. There's one right there. We'll get to that story and why that's important in just a bit. Absolutely gorgeous back here. Beautiful ride so far following the old railroad bed. We'll get to the story of the Sydney duck cache in just a bit. So Jack and I are several miles up the trail from Pluma following the old railroad bed. There were carriage roads, stagecoach roads that crisscrossed this entire area. Like yesterday's tale of the burnt ranch gold, the story of the Sydney duck cache is very similar in that there are multiple different versions of this story that are out there. Here is one of them. A man by the name of Jeffrey Phillips was arrested and imprisoned in Australia, was released and decided to come to the United States in search of gold and wealth. Landed in California and decided at that point he was going to try to live an honest life by mining there. Didn't have any luck, but in the meantime kept getting accused of crimes that he did not commit. Actually did decide to commit a crime, was caught and escaped, and ended up moving to South Dakota for gold that was being mined here during the gold rush. When Phillips landed in the Black Hills, he decided to resort to his old ways of robbing others, and he met up with two other shady characters by the name of Soritz and Tolliver. So they had been robbing individuals on carriage roads and burglarizing businesses and saloons, but they decided that they were going to get greedy. They wanted something bigger and better. So they decided they were going to rob the Cheyenne Deadwood stage. And they made plans to do that. They did that one day, robbed it. They were wearing gunny sacks over their heads so they would not be recognized. There were several individuals inside the stage at the time, along with a couple of drivers. They lost their focus, and one of the drivers actually pulled the gunny sack off of Sort's head, revealing who he was. Sort's wielded his gun, shot the driver dead right there. The others realized they could see him as well. Sort shot everyone dead. They decided they would fill their side bags on their horses with all of the gold. There was $15,000 worth of gold coin in the stage that day. And they rode up a box canyon similar to this one outside of Pluma, maybe even this one, and decided they were going to hide out at their cabin up here. So after several days, they decided they needed to have supplies. They didn't think that anyone would recognize who they were because there were no survivors in that stage. Well, it turns out there was one survivor. One of the individuals shot only had a flesh wound, but was able to tell passersby exactly what happened, exactly who it was. So when Sorts wandered down into town, into Pluma, for supplies, he was immediately arrested. The coward that he was, he gave up his buddies. He said that it was Sorts and Tolliver's plan, that they were the ones that concocted this whole scheme to rob the stage. And not only that, but he was going to lead the authorities up the canyon to where Tolliver and Sorts, or where Tolliver and Phelps were at. They pulled up in front of the cabin. Sheriff yells for them to come out. They said they've got the wrong place, at which time Sheriff shows that he's got Sorts with him. Phelps was so mad he pulled his gun out, poked it through the window, and shot Sorts dead right there. Flash of bullets riddled the cabin. Both Sorts and Phillips, Tolliver and Phillips, were both killed. Thing is, the gold was never found. Sorts had told them that it was buried up in one of these box canyons, and with repeated attempts, the gold was never recovered. Still here, maybe. So Jack and I are going to take some time right up and down the canyon here. We've got a bunch of miles to go to the south before we turn around and come back. Again, it's absolutely gorgeous. So we'll see if we can find a box canyon, which we have found one that has some waterfalls, possibly, and see if we can identify at least the area where this legend took place. So as we're riding up the trail here, ran into a small rest stop, and the Bismarck mine would have been just up there, and the Wasp mine would have been up there. Both sounds like marginally profitable at the time for gold and maybe even silver. Some old mining equipment left behind from the two mines here. Video here just doesn't do it justice as to how large these hills really are. Amazing to think that people came all the way back in here to do this terribly grueling work. So we've been riding uphill what seems like forever, and that is the direction we're going. Back with you in a bit. So we are in Englewood, South Dakota right now. No longer a town. It was once called 10 Mile. This was on the Cheyenne to Deadwood stagecoach trail, and every 10 miles there was a stop where the horses could be changed out and the riders could rest. This area here was home to an entire town when it became popular in 1890 as the railroad was built. An entire town sat here. Obviously not here any longer. So we've had our break and seen the sights, had a quick snack, and we're going to be on our way. Very cool. Glad we were here today. This is very interesting. Not sure if you can see it. There is our trail that we rode up way down below us there. We have not seen any mountain lions yet, but we're packing. We got our knives ready just in case. So that is our treasure hunting for the day. We rode for several hours, looked around. The Sydney Duck Cache with Jeffrey Phillips. So you might be wondering, what is Sydney Duck? So Sydney Ducks were a large group of men that had been imprisoned in Australia, and in large groups came to the United States in hope of striking it rich during the gold rush days. Most of the time causing trouble after they got here as well. Many of them ending their lives in much the same way as Jeffrey Phillips. Their bad deeds eventually caught up to them and caused them an early death and not such a long life. So what happened with the treasure? We don't know. With all three men that did the robbing dead, there was no way to know for sure exactly where it was, other than somewhere up in a box canyon, likely along the stagecoach road, which is where we're at, near a waterfall, which we went by several of. The gold itself has never been found. $15,000 worth of gold coins. This is the interesting story. I've got one more for you tomorrow. The Lame Johnny's lost treasure, but $15,000 with the gold coin is exciting in itself. That treasure is safe, also like yesterday's, safe for another day, as we didn't have any luck pinpointing where we would search if we had the chance. So, what's our plan for the rest of the day? We're going to be heading into Deadwood and looking around, taking in the sights there, getting some lunch, and then we'll see what our afternoon brings with what time we have after that. So it is afternoon and I'm out metal detecting. The staff up at the check-in desk gave me permission to detect this entire field. This is a field where lots of events take place, including weddings, and they were certain that I'd be able to find some stuff here. So I have permission to actually detect in several other spots on the property, but this is probably where I'll focus the majority of my time. It's a huge area here. I pulled a little clad, some newer change, and then just a few seconds ago, well, this. Never get tired of pulling pocket knives. In really rough shape, but I'll take that home as a memento of our trip here. So here are all my finds from this afternoon out on that field. The lock to a car door, 2 quarters, 6 dimes, 10 pennies, plus an 11th penny squashed Mount Rushmore Black Hills squash penny, 1 key, and then what I'm going to consider the find of the day, even though it's in rough shape, I do like finding these. I take it home and I will add that for sure to my collection. So, got plans for this evening, actually to move on to Crazy Horse now. Instead of going back to Mount Rushmore, we're going to head on to Crazy Horse after having supper here at the campground in a bit. It is late, and I believe Jack fell asleep a little while ago, so it's going to be time to get to bed. We do have an early morning tomorrow. We're going to be driving down to Hill City and getting on the George Mickelson Trail again. Again, that trail follows the old railroad bed and the Cheyenne to Deadwood Stagecoach Road. We'll be heading north out of Hill City in search of exploring the area where Lame Johnny's treasure is rumored to be buried. As always, thanks for joining me again today. See you in the morning. Good morning again from the Palmer Gulch KOA behind Mount Rushmore. Today is Wednesday, and Jack and I are headed off to Hill City to do another story of a treasure rumored to be buried somewhere north of there. So it was a early morning for me. It was a light rain, and Jack was pretty tired, so I let him sleep in. I went to the open field where I have permission to metal detect at the campground here, and had a little bit of luck. I found 26 coins, although I ignored way more signals for coins than that. The two surprise finds today were a small metal button, and the big surprise find for today was a axe head, really right in the middle of the field. So I will take that. So again, we're heading off to Hill City right now, and we'll be getting on the George Mickelson Trail and riding north from there. At least 10 miles through some tunnels there, and we'll be telling you the story of Lame Johnny's lost treasure. Another interesting story, interesting character with a very similar ending to the others we have told this week. See you in a bit. So we are several miles north of Hill City on the George Mickelson Trail, which runs in an old railroad bed, and the location of the Cheyenne to Deadwood Stagecoach Trail. We are heading uphill, got quite a few miles to go yet, to a couple of the tunnels, and the story of Lame Johnny's lost treasure. So Jack and I are about 12 and a half miles into our ride. This is Tunnel A, and we're at the site for today's story of Lame Johnny's lost gold, Lame Johnny's lost treasure. Lame Johnny was born in 1850. His name at that time was Cornelius Donahue, and Lame Johnny had a limp, and people made fun of him. Born in Philadelphia, he decided as a young man couldn't handle that, and he ran away. Ended up in Texas, where he decided to try to make a living by stealing cattle. And turns out Lame Johnny wasn't very good at stealing cattle. So ended up coming up to the Black Hills and thinking that he was going to strike it rich here during the gold rush again. And that didn't work out so well either. So he started stealing cattle up here. Eventually landed a job, ironically, as a sheriff of Custer County, and then later on as an accountant for the Homestake mine in Lead. Kind of crazy, huh? So while working at the Homestake mine, someone ended up recognizing him from his cattle thief days back in Texas, and he took off. So without an income, ended up going back to his old standby of robbing others, and had been robbing different stagecoaches and individuals on the Stagecoach Trail, and eventually was accused of robbing the stagecoach where a large amount of money, a large amount of gold was taken. Eventually the authorities caught up with him, and they were taking him back into town to throw him in jail, and several other stagecoach robbers pulled that stagecoach over and broke him out of it. Now the drivers thought that they were there to actually save him. Turns out they weren't. They were there to ask him and demand of him where he hid his gold from his stagecoach robberies. Well, turns out the answer that he gave them was unsatisfactory. So what did they do? They hung him right there, right on the spot. So Lame Johnny's gold has not been recovered. Somewhere in this part of the Black Hills, and here for others to find.
Take care, enjoy your day.
Have a great day. So a few of the people that we have met along the trail here today. Actually another family on the other side of the tunnel here from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So Lame Johnny's end is very similar to that of the others. This was the Wild West. People took care of things on their own, and when things didn't go the way they wanted them to, they ended things the way that they wanted to end them. Lame Johnny's lost gold is still somewhere here in the Black Hills. We got a ways to ride back into town. We'll take a look around. I know we're not going to find anything, but it's always nice to pretend. Hope you're enjoying the ride. We'll catch up with you on our way back. So we're in a long climb, about 3.5 miles, coming up out of the hill from the tunnel now, and talking about mountain lions. If we saw one,
What?
I would tell you,
Huh?
one of us would get away, the other would not.
Old Grandpa can't keep up out here, folks.
The final clue in National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets, has Ben Gates and his friends looking for the entrance to Cibila, the lost city of gold. The movie itself would have you believe that the entrance is right behind Mount Rushmore. Shh. I got a secret for you. It's not. It's actually here. It's Sylvan Lake. So, Jack and I are here. We're going to look for the entrance to Cibila up here in these rocks and see if we can find the lost city of gold. So I'm there. I found it. The gate to open up Cibila. The clue is surrender your hand to open the gate. At this point, Nicolas Cage screams out to scare everybody, but there's a latch inside. He pulls it. And behind him, the gate opens to Cibila. But I'm going to close it. I don't want to give it away. This treasure is meant to stay lost forever. If you want to find it, you're going to need to come here yourself and look. All joking aside, that really was the intent of the last 3 or 4 days out here in the Black Hills. The lost treasure that we found was time together and the stories of our past and being able to see what things look like in nature and to enjoy them. That really is the true treasure. If today is the first day that you've joined us, go ahead and take a look through part 1 and part 2. If you've been here all 3 days, thank you very much. I appreciate it. As always, thanks for joining me again today. Hope to see you again soon.